Hey, it's the Ray Rican. and The left like to talk about the big lie when they talk about Trump's election fraud allegations. I'm just going to say allegations. Now, that's their big lie. That's what they say is the big lie. But what's the left's big lie right now? And here's an article, and I agree with them. This is the big lie in the left right now. It's by Sarah Dogan. The left's big lie about critical race theory, because to me, this is perfectly correct, that the big lie is about critical race theory. And here's the whole thing where they say it's not taught. This is the whole funny thing. It's not taught in Virginia. It's not been taught in Virginia. This is what failed candidate Terry McAuliffe said in an interview, and added that Republicans' claims about CRT were racist and a dog whistle. So what's the reality here? It goes, the answer obviously is no. Critical race theory is a real threat, and it's increasingly been taught in public schools. Critical race theory is a radical vision of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's dream that each American be judged not by the color of their skin, by the content of their character. While Dr. King and the leaders of the civil rights movement promoted colorblindness, CRT insists on the exact opposite view, teaching that our character, our beliefs, and our place in society is predetermined by our skin color. By this reckoning, whites are deemed to be inherently racist, born into a framework of white supremacy, which infiltrates all American institutions, and by contrast, racial minorities, and especially Blacks, are regarded as perpetual victims of the white supremacist society into which they were born. If you notice, that's always the attack. It's the white supremacists, white supremacy, white supremacists. That's their buzzword right now. And here it goes. Over the past several decades, this racist ideology has spread from the halls of academia to K through 12 classrooms across the nation. The examples of CRT in a public school are so numerous as to be overwhelming. Not My Idea, a book about whiteness, Ordinary Terrible Things by author Anastasia Higginbottom, is a picture book for young children that depicts whiteness as a bad deal with a pointy-tailed devil, in which those who possessed it are rewarded with stolen land. This book is on reading lists in 30 school districts in 15 states across the country. Students in a Michigan high school English class were forced to read a lengthy essay on white privilege and then describe in writing how this concept applies to their own lives. A New York City public school sent home a letter home to parents urging them to become white traders and promote white abolition. I remember that. And anyways, let me keep going. When pundits and politicians on the left claim that CRT is not being taught in public schools, they are playing word games. It is true that CRT began as an academic movement inspired by the work of legal scholars, including Derek Bell, Alan Freeman, Kimberly Crenshaw, and others, but as many academic ideas, including the concept of microaggressions or the demand for safe spaces, CRT did not stay confined to the ivory tower. What Democrats like McAuliffe mean when they say CRT is not taught in public schools is that kindergartners are not being forced to listen to lectures on legal theory, but they are being forced to learn the destructive and racial precepts which stem from that theory. Claiming that CRT is not taught in public schools is like claiming the theory of gravity isn't taught in public schools, because grade schoolers aren't sitting through lectures on the finer points of Einstein's theory of relativity. The CRT school children are exposed to a dumbed down version of the legal theory, and is all the more insidious for that reason, because it is taught as absolute fact to children too young to offer resistance or debate. And that's the issue. That's the whole issue there. And I'm going to keep going with this, where I'm going to, because for people who say, oh, no, that's not what's going on. I want you to hear what this lady had to go through in her school. Hopefully it'll play. And here we
First,
go.
it was in early spring of 2020 when my 6-year-old somberly came to me and asked me if she was born evil because she was a white person, something she learned in a history lesson at school. Then you kept the schools.
Okay. So, that's the problem with teaching this. These kids don't understand. They don't know the nuances. They don't get the subtleties. You're teaching them this theory as a fact. Okay, as a fact. And that's the problem, is you're teaching them that this is true and they're taking it as true. And that's what's gone on. This is what's gone on in college campuses, period. You have all these critical theories being taught. And like I pointed this out in discussions, but the people on the left want to ignore it. It's tribalism. It's people just wanting to be on their side. And you could point it out to your blue in the face, but they won't listen, because it's like, oh no, that like, okay, I say here, I always point to critical theory, because critical theory is a Marxist ideology, and people who say it's not, it's like Wikipedia is a left-wing source of information, and it points it out right here. I mean, overview of it. The first two people are Kant and Marx. Okay, so to say that critical theory, critical race theory is not, and they say it's not being taught in school, but all these critical theories, if they're not being taught in school, they're already starting, stuff is already starting. Like you have critical gender theory that people don't talk about. You have queer theory, which is a field of critical theory. All these theories come from a Marxist point of view. Look, I mean, here's the first, here's the description of gender. The critical theory of gender revolves around the theory that gender division is a social construct, that such division was constructed with the purpose to subjugate women in addition to other reasons. The critical gender theory is relative of social constructionist concept in which identity categories are the product of specific historical and cultural developments. On the contrary, this concept is a concept of essentialism, which states that identity categories reflect intimate, fundamental, and unchanging characteristics of the members, rendering permanent categories of the human experience. As a result, homosexuality is historically and culturally universally based on historical instances. This concept can be very appalling to defend varying gender and sexual identities. However, this concept fails to take into account the culture of the past and can be problematic when applied to other systems of oppressions. So that's the whole thing. When they talk about the systems of oppression, you have to come back here to critical theory. Okay. And it goes here, even when you go to critical theory, what was the thing that stood out to me? Pedagogy. Because I always talk about that with critical race theory. Critical theorists have widely credited Paulo Freire for the first applications of critical theory to education / pedagogy, considering his best known work to be Pedagogy of the Oppressed, a seminal text in what is now known as the philosophy and social movement of critical pedagogy, dedicated to the oppressed and based on his own experience helping Brazilian adults learn to read and write. But like I said, so if you're going to go and look at these theories and look what we're being taught, like you come here, like, and you look at the critical theory when it comes to the queer theory, and it goes here, that emerged from the early 1990s of queer studies, often informally gay and lesbian studies and women's studies. The term can have various meanings depending on its usage, but is broadly associated with the study and theorization of gender and sexual practices that exist outside of heterosexuality, which challenge the notion that heterosexual desire is normal. Following the social constructivist developments in sociology, queer theorists are often critical of what they consider essentialist views of sexuality and gender. Instead, they study those concepts. And it goes here. So when we talk about all this stuff that's going on with um, between critical gender studies, critical gender theory, queer theory here, I'll just refer to as critical queer theory. All this stuff it's being taught to the kids. And you're going to say, oh, no, 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 that's not true. This whole concept of pronouns, this whole concept of multiple genders, multiple pronouns, all this stuff, you're saying it's not being taught to kids? This was taught in colleges. Now these kids get out of college and are putting it in society. And now they're teaching it to little kids. And you can't tell me no, because they're going to tell me, oh, no, that's not true. That I know for a fact that my niece had to say her preferred pronouns in school. She's 13. You're going to tell me that that's not, if you tell me that's not being taught to kids, you're lying, or you're just lying, period. So, but critical theory, this all shoots from critical theory. Critical theory is a Marxist theory, and Marxist theory is rampant in colleges. And now, because it's been left to fester in colleges, it's going into the culture. That's why you have that's why you have the populism of like a Bernie Sanders, and the squad with like AOC and all these people. That's why Marxism is popular. But they don't see, because as much as we hate fascism and the people who brought it to us in the millions of deaths in the 20th century, they ignore the millions of deaths caused by communism in the 20th century. But it's how, to me, I don't understand how you could, even with all our problems, we've never killed millions of our people because of our economic structure. And you could say, oh, well, there's poor people and we don't take it. Poor people in America are fat. Not all of them. How do they get fat if they're so poor and we don't do nothing to give them? There's social programs that we have in this country. We have public housing in this country. We have welfare. We have Medicare. There's a bunch of systems that we have for poor people. To say that we don't take care of them. But that's what critical theory is, just basically is an attack on this country, because they want to destroy our system of government. They're a Marxist. It's a Marxist philosophy that, of course, they're going to see everything. They're going to see everything bad in this country, and the solution is going to be Marxism, whether it's in the form of socialism or communism. That's their solution, is to fundamentally transform the country, whether you want to call it that, when they fundamentally transform our economic system. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that our system's perfect, because we need to fix our system too. I'm not going to say that we don't, because we have a lot of cronyism that goes on in our country, and that needs to be repaired too. So when you see me criticizing Marxism, we don't have a absolute capitalist. We don't have a laissez-faire capitalist country at all. There's a lot of places, and I don't think we need to go to that extreme either. But I think we need to be careful how much power we give the government over our economy. Not just our economy, but our bodies. Because that's what's going on. When you allow the government to go Oh, well, we're going to tax you, any individual, any, it doesn't matter. Look, listen, look, forget about rich, poor. Do you think it's right for someone to work and for the government to take 60, 70% of what they make or what they're worth? Do you think that the government owns us as individuals? Because that's what's going to go on with what goes on with critical theory is, at the end of the day, you're subject to the government, not the other way around. Because in America, the government is supposed to be subject to us. We're supposed to control our government. But in Marxist societies, that's what they don't. They'll go, oh, real Marxism and real communism's never been tried. But the problem is, in order to form those countries, you have to break the will of the people. Not only do you have, but you have to violate the people's rights. You have to subjugate them. You have to get them, you have to break their free will. Does that all sound familiar? With what's been going on the past, now it's almost going to be 2 years. What's been going on? So just keep that in mind. So when the left and the Democrats talk about the big lie that they don't teach critical race theory, ask them about critical theory. Because when they tell you that it's not a Marxist philosophy, just remember this. Just come here to go to Wikipedia and look and see for yourself that it is an offshoot of critical theory. It says it right here. Even if you just go, you don't want to click on it, you just go to the critical theory page. There's here, it says here, not to be confused with critical race theory, but it's an offshoot of it. Same way, like I said, like it says here, queer theory is a field of critical theory. Now, gender studies, since it's so widespread, but if you go here to the categories of, it falls under this parts of gender studies, which is critical gender theory that falls under gender studies. And this all has to do with the concept of intersectionality. That's why all of this, triple oppression, so if you're gay, Latina, you're a woman, a gay woman, Latina, so you're triple oppressed. You're a transgender, non-binary, I don't know if you could actually be transgender and non-binary. So anyways, look, all of this stuff is a product of critical theory, and all of it it comes from the tree of Marxism. It's all these branches come from Marxism. If you're okay with that, I can't change your mind. You're a true believer. And that's what this has become. It's become a faith. It's become a religion. Because people are, have lost faith in religion, they had to find another one to take its place. And that's what's gone on. Because at the end of the day, we all want to believe in something. We all want to believe in a God. Even, even the atheists, you want to talk, deep down inside, they have to know that there's something, whether it's some structure or some being or some outside force. That's just how I feel. But anyways, let me know what you think. Do you think I'm right, barking up the wrong tree when I'm saying that all this stems from Marxism? Do you think I'm correct? Let me know. Give me give me some feedback, and give me a like and subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and follow me on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, Clout Hub, all that stuff. That being said, have a good one.